let's start with, how does a Locus question start? A point, P. Okay. It moves such that, now, what I'm going to describe is going to be very similar to the straight line that we had before, okay? So a straight line, how do I get a straight line, like a perpendicular bisector? I say you got one point here, and you got another point here, right? And what's the wording that usually gets it? What wording produces this? Do you remember from yesterday? It's this point moves, so it's always the same distance from A and B. Okay. Now I'm just going to modify that just a little bit, and you're going to see we're going to get a radically different shape. Okay. So at the end, after you've worked out the equation, we're going to draw it, or it might even you've got to try and work out what it is. Okay. So instead of equidistant from 2 points, we're going to say such that its distance from A. What are my coordinates? This point is always not equal but double. Is always double its distance. It's always double the distance from. And here's another point. Okay. So there's my setup. Pick out the important pieces, right? And then write down an equation and see which of these you'll need, and then expand out. Okay? Simplify as far down as you can. There's some pretty tricky algebra because there are some big things that need to get squared out and expanded, so be careful. Okay? Then when you get to the end, you want to find the equation. Try and answer the question, what does this thing look like? How would you describe its shape? Okay? And then lastly, you can draw it. Yes, Justin?
Oh, I thought you asked me a question when you said describe the shape.
Yeah, okay, not yet. Not yet, right? And maybe, by the way, just as a general rule, right? Because I know all of you are at different places in terms of how much you remember or how much maybe you've seen in advance, okay? So if I give you a question like this, right? And you're like, ooh, I know this one, okay? I sort of generally treat that person, don't take this personally, as kind of like the person in the movie theater who, you've never seen this movie before, and this person's seen it like 10 times before, right? And they're in the middle so everyone can hear them, and as someone comes up, like you see them for the first time, and they're like someone who you're not sure about them, and they seem to be a good guy, and then they whisper really loud like, "That's the bad guy!" And you're like, what? I just wasted 2 hours of my life, okay? And like $12 because movies are really expensive now, right? So what's the point? Don't spoil it because it robs you not of a cinematic experience, but try to actually go through this yourself and learn it, okay? Because when someone spoils it for you, like if I told you right now, it's a blah, okay? It'd be a lot more boring, okay? And less surprising when you actually get there, okay? Because you'd expect it sounds very similar to this, but it's totally different, okay? So off you go, give it a go, and then we'll come back together in a few minutes.